Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Shields. And today I've got a longtime friend, fellow PT school mate, and respected friend and associate, Mark Moore of Moore Physical Therapy and owner also of rehabscribe.com. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, happy to be here, Nathan. Been a long time since you've been asking, and finally we got together. So I got the guts up to talk on your podcast, which I think is really awesome.
I think you were one of the first people I told that I was starting this podcast a long time. I think before I even moved up to Alaska, like 5-6 years ago, and I knew eventually I'd have you on the podcast, but I'm surprised that it took this long, man.
I've been running.
Exactly. Right. Well, Mark, I know all about you, man. We've been physical therapists. We went to Northern Arizona University, graduated in 99 as lumberjacks from the physical therapy program there. Tell the audience a little bit about your ownership journey and what you're doing.
Yeah. So in 2002, opened a private practice in Mesa, Arizona, named it my last name, Moore Physical Therapy, made that common. Might call it a mistake at this point, but at any rate, it's it's been good. Have loved the journey as a PT and particularly as an owner of a company. We grew steadily over the course of the years, but really took off kind of in 2015, 16, when we decided to expand and become open an additional office out in 2017 in Gold Canyon, Arizona. And then last year, in 2019, I should say, we opened a third clinic in Tempe, Arizona. And we're growing a company out here in the East Valley, Phoenix area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always been awesome to watch your progress and the growth that you've had over time. And Mark and I not only are longtime friends and associates, but we're also members of a similar peer-to-peer group inside PPS. And so we've been able to look at your business specifically and some of the things that you've done to improve it over the years. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, not only because you are a successful physical therapist, but one aspect that you brought to the table a few years ago was your usage of scribes in the practice. And so I want to get into that a little bit and talk to you about, okay, how did you come upon that idea and how did you integrate that into your program? And so we can spend a lot of the time during our discussion today about scribes and other things, but tell us a little bit about what brought that into play.
Yeah. So in 2015, I realized I was one of these guys that put it off, but finally decided to get some coaching. Mm-hmm. And as Nathan talks about a lot, this is a pivotal moment in a lot of people's journeys. And so I started to take some coaching, and I was in a workshop with actually Jamie Schreier. So mm-hmm. Jamie, some of you have had on your
a few times
on your podcast, and well known, great guy. And it was interesting. I was in that, and I was talking to another participant there, and he was a chiropractor, because Jamie will have mostly PTs, but I guess also other practitioners in his program. But the guy was talking about having a scribe in his office, in his chiropractic office, and I can't remember where he was at, somewhere on the East Coast, and it just stuck. I couldn't get it out of my mind. It was just constantly this thought that you've got to do that. You've got to do that. Mm-hmm. And took a lot of things out of that workshop, but that was the one thing that just resonated with me. And here's why: because I was staying late after work doing notes, right? Like it's a common in the outpatient orthopedic world. You're done with your patients and you're still there hammering out notes, and it's miserable, and it's the part of the job that you just dislike the most. In fact, I always say to people, I say, when you look at different professions, like a plumber, what's the worst part of his job? And we all kind of can fill in the blank. Well, what if you're a mailman? Well, that's the dog that bites you. What if you're the school teacher? Well, it's not the kids, it's the stinking parents. But in PT, what's the worst part about your job? And everybody's like, well, we all know the answer to that. It's real clear. It's finishing documentation, being
right.
It's the notes.
Right.
And so I was fed up, and I had decided that I was going to do some things differently, and I was going to eliminate things in my life. One of the things that Jamie I caught from his workshop was I was going to do an activity inventory. So look at all the things in my life or in my workplace.
Right.
What are all the things that I do day to day? So I wasn't answering the phones anymore like I was early in my professional or my ownership.
Yeah.
And I wasn't scheduling the patients. I'd given away all these things, but certain things I still owned that I thought only I could do, but I didn't want to do them anymore. And so this activity inventory was list the things that remove your energy, that take energy away from you.
Uh-huh.
And list them at the top and just start chipping away and get rid of that stuff that takes energy from you.
Right.
And the very top of my list was real obvious. It was documentation. And I had to do something about reducing the time that I was spending in notes and documentation. And so I think that's why when I talked to that guy, the chiropractor, and he said that, it just like wouldn't leave my brain. I'm like, I got to get rid of that.
And I don't, of course you're not alone. Documentation is the thing. I think even in the web PT surveys that they do of, 7 to 10,000 different physical therapists, always at the top of the list, it's the headaches that surround the EMR, mainly documentation. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've asked that question to a lot of people, and it's easy. If it's an outpatient ortho, it's easy. The answer is real clear. It's documentation that they like the least. And so, so I made a decision I was going to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so January 1st, 2016, Heidi arrived at the clinic.
A day that lives in infamy, obviously.
Yes, that's right. It's a day that is so close to my heart. Heidi. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to construct this. I'm going to invent this. I'm going to make it what it is, because I didn't have anybody out there to guide me in the process. I didn't have a who. And Nathan and I talk a lot about the Dan Sullivan's Who Not How. It's a book that is the top of my list, and I'm looking for. I needed a who, someone who would take that load off me.
Right.
And so I hired Heidi. And I said,
now, did you hire her specifically to be a scribe? Like when you hired her, you said, you are going to be my scribe, or did you hire her as a tech with some scribe responsibilities on the side?
I hired her as a scribe.
You did.
And and said, if you have downtime, you'll help out as a tech, or other ways, you can answer phones and be but I was inventing this thing. Right. And so I hired as a scribe, and never looked back. Now we have scribes in all 3 of our clinics, and it's such an advantage. It's such an advantage in so many ways.
Well, we're going to talk a little about what you do, maybe how you train them a little bit, what you're willing to share. But do you look for certain people as you're trying to hire for scribes? I mean, do they have a certain skill set, personality? They don't have to have degrees, I'm sure. They just have to know how to run the keyboard, I'm assuming.
Here's what I've found, which is part of the beauty of this, is that people love this job.
Really?
I've never hired a scribe that didn't just come to me within a couple of days and go, I love this.
Really?
I love it. Yes, they love it. It's not so. If you've got somebody who shares the values, this is my experience.
Sure.
There's somebody who shares your values. That's first and foremost.
Right.
And is going to be someone who you can work well with, and they really are interested in being part of a healthcare team.
Okay.
Which a lot of people do, and this is a lot of the same people that you hire to work as your patient care coordinator, or your other, these are people who want to be around patients, want to be helping,
Okay.
But they're right there. They feel so they're so front line because
Oh,
they're really there in the initial evaluation, and
right.
they're gleaning and they're capturing all of the things that you're learning from your patient in that initial evaluation. They're realizing what the plan is and what the goals are, and they've got some medical terminology.
Okay.
It increases, in their
Yeah.
ability, and they
Right.
love all that. And
Okay.
that's really awesome. They really like. So I don't know that I could say I've figured out the best um, candidate for that, but I've found that it's not hard to find because the job is really enjoyable.
Oh, we're interesting. So as long as they're value aligned, which should be appropriately so for anyone who joins your company, but just have some interest in healthcare, these people, it's really intriguing to people because I guess in a way you're pulling back the curtain and letting them
Mm-hmm.
see what it's really like to be a physical therapist because they're intimately involved in the process, taking all this personal information, writing down the objective data and
Right.
whatnot. And so do
Yeah.
you have to spend a lot of time then training them on terminologies, vocabulary, and I'm sure they have to spend a significant amount of time doing some training on your EMR, right?
So yeah, that's right. So that is where there's a lot of work and time that needs to be invested, like in any job, And
Right,
there's the more physical therapy way, like we do it in a certain
right.
way
Uh-huh.
at our offices, and but then the Rise Rehab or other whoever else out there, they're going to have their ways too. But this can integrate. This doesn't have to
Right,
be, they're not necessarily having to have one way of doing this. It can
right.
fold right into a company's
What you're
purposes
doing.
and missions and uh, their methods as well. And
Uh-huh.
which is one of there's one. I kind of have four things that I would say that really uh, happened when I put a scribe in our company.
Yeah.
Four or five main things. One, it reduced my personal time by 60%. My documentation time by 60%.
Wow.
Mine. My quality of my documentation went way up, like way
Really?
improved, way better.
Really?
My plans of care and the buy-in that I got from my patients on plan of care on the first visit and subsequent visits way improved. And this one thing we're just talking about right now, there was a uniformity, and there is now a fairly uniform methodology across three clinics. Imagine that, right?
Mm,
You've
okay.
got all these different providers, PTs and PTAs writing notes and having different, ways that they do things. This allows it doesn't push anybody into a corner, but it allows some uniformity because
Mm-hmm.
they're using the same scribes, right? And
Right.
so there is some there that helps in your
Mm-hmm.
company. And the last of those five items is it is maybe the biggest, which is when you go to hire new PTs, and you're at a total advantage.
Yeah.
When someone's competing and saying, well, I might go work for this guy or work for you, but oh, did you say that you're going to reduce my documentation by 60%? Yeah, I think I'm going to go with you, you know,
Yeah, I can totally see that as an advantage.
total advantage. Yeah,
Wow.
it's awesome that way as well. So, you know, those are the main things that stand out, and there's
Mhm.
others, but
Well, I'm
um,
sure it's not a hands-off process, and you've got a detailed process as to how you introduce the scribe into the room, right? And
yep,
you've got a
yep,
process as to what verbiage they're going to say, and you're also reviewing this documentation after the fact, and you're
correct.
telling, and you might be even giving them certain phrases like, "Here, write this down word for word," blankety blah 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 blah, right? And I'm assuming that over time that they are, yeah, the way you're training and telling them what to do becomes, like you said, uniform, but also the quality of the documentation improves, and and their ability to read your mind to an extent.
Oh yeah.
They know what
Well,
you're
listen,
thinking. They start throwing out stuff that they know you would say, right?
yeah, like yeah, we are creatures of habit. Let's not
Right.
pretend like we're
Yeah.
not. Like, so they see patterns
Yeah.
very very quickly, and because they are for the most part just they're an observer. Like,
Right.
they're just capturing information. Imagine that you're in your evaluation and you never take your eyes off your patient.
Wow.
Not once. Like your eyes are on them unless you're looking at your goniometer. You're looking in their eyes and talking to them and about goals and about purpose and about things that are meaningful. And all the while, this is all being captured.
Yeah.
And so it's wonderful that way. Of course, you can't predict what the patients are going to say, but yeah,
No.
you can prepare your scribe for uh, to be concise, and
Hmm.
not get
Yeah.
run on every sentence and everything that's being
Yeah.
said. But that comes with some experience and with some training. But
Yeah.
this
Because
this is not this is not transcription. I think this one
no.
thing important. Like, it's not transcription, and it's not abdication of the role of the PT
Right.
either, right?
Right.
It's a trained individual that loves what they're doing to be an extension of you, the provider, and produce what you would produce
Hmm.
if you had the time and the energy and really wanted to, and they'll do it
Yeah.
even better than you will.
Yeah. Because I could see they could get carried away with those patients that spend 30 minutes on their past history. And
Yeah.
you don't want them capturing all of that word for word, right? So it takes a little bit of training. Does it also take some training um, to help them understand what is quality documentation and what is needed by some of the potential auditors and whatnot? Do you send them through some of that training and talk them through that?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's a component that we need to make sure that we are on the up and up and in every way. So,
Right.
um, there's no certification for this
No.
as of yet, but it
Mm-hmm.
is something that I'm working on.
Oh,
I
that's
think
cool.
that would be something that we could create some uniformity over the time,
Right.
so that we can see this as a profession that's recognized and has certifications and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's certainly not outside of the realm of possibility. It's just
Yeah.
still in the works. But yeah, it's we want to make sure that this is serving all the interests, the payers, the providers,
Right.
um, really well,
Mm-hmm.
the owners. So
Right. And so, and I'm assuming also one of the byproducts is that your initial evaluation times have decreased. Like
yeah,
it doesn't take an hour
yeah,
to do an initial evaluation. You're doing the most important things and getting the most important information and moving on.
right. And
Right.
it's not so the biggest thing is your initial evaluations and your progress notes. Those are the notes that typically take us more time during the day, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Time
we kind
intensive.
of
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing is that we're busy, and oftentimes we'll be working with somebody and they'll make a comment about something. They were able to walk up 5 stairs without using the handrail, which is three more than last time we talked, or whatever. There's some type of thing.
Yeah.
But then at the some distant part of the day after you've seen another 3 patients, you're like, what was that Mrs. Smith said? Something about uh, the stairs, but I can't remember what. Well,
Yeah.
it's going to be captured, and it's going to be
Right.
captured really well, accurately, because that's the reason the scribe is there. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to capture that. And another thing is because a scribe, for instance, in one of our offices, we'll have as many as 4 providers at one time, and that one scribe is providing the scribing work for 4 of them. And so
Wow.
it's not one on one. This
Right.
person can work with everybody in that office. Well, if I'm seeing a patient comes in and I'm talking to this patient, finding out how they've done over the weekend or whatever it is, or since we've seen them last, and my scribe is working with another one of the providers, that's fine. They don't have to be
Yeah.
there with that second. But when that scribe is done and comes over, and I feel her like on my right shoulder here, know she's there, then
Right.
I'm going to say, Mrs. Smith, tell me again what you were saying. Did I hear this right? And I can
Uh-huh.
restate to Mrs. Smith what I heard her say. And what does
Right.
that do? But
Yeah.
it gives her a chance to go, man, I am totally heard and understood.
Right.
And this PT listens, he understands. And if she says, no, that's not what I meant at all. Oh, okay. Let's make sure we get this right. What is it you said? And then
Yeah.
that's all captured. And that's why the quality of our information goes up.
Yes.
So, because oftentimes
Definitely.
it's not just capturing it right as it comes out, it's
No.
asking that patient, and this is what we're trained to do, is let's ask that patient, okay, do I understand you correct? You're saying the following. And that restatement, validating
Yep.
their concerns, their worries, their thrills, the things they're excited about, connects you more deeply with your patient, which we know that connection between provider and patient is as essential as anything,
Right.
to see that patient improve and get better.
Right. No, I totally agree. They want to feel that connection. And that's, maybe it's not a statistic that you measured, but has it changed, maybe retention rates, or has it really, it's changed your retention rates, maybe your, completed discharge rates,
Right.
fully
Our
completed plans of care?
plans of care. Yeah. That it's way up, and
Really?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh
When
my
we opened
gosh.
this most recent clinic in Tempe, we were kind of starting with a little bit of a skeleton crew
Sure.
because, it's a new clinic and you've got a lot of startup expenses and stuff. So we went for a while without a scribe.
Yeah.
And when we got that scribe and added it in, you see those changes. You
Really?
see those
Interesting.
improvements. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. And I loved one of the benefits that you pointed out, and that was how it improved your plans of care. Tell me about that a little bit. How did it affect your plans of care and the patient's buy into it?
So when you're sitting there, as I said, looking at the patient, not looking at your notes, not looking at a computer or laptop or anything of that sort, you're connecting with them. And we have this is part of the uniformity. We have a way of asking, Mrs. Smith,
Certain questions.
6 weeks from now, this is the question, right?
Yeah.
6 weeks from now, if you and I are here sitting here having this conversation, what is it that you need to happen between now and then that would make you totally satisfied with this relationship with you and our clinic? And that's, by the way, not my question. I got to give credit to, that's Dan Sullivan's question.
That's a
It's
Dan
called
Sullivan thing.
Yeah, it's called the Dan Sullivan question, right? And he's my entrepreneurial coach. So, or his assistant is Chad Johnson's actually my coach. But we asked that question, and what you get from that is such a connection between what they want, and when you can restate back to them what they just said to you, even better than they could have said it to you, because you have the ability to articulate it through the lens of somebody who understands their disease or their pathology and their anatomy, and you put it back to them and they go, oh yeah, what you just said, that's what I want. Buy-in right there.
Yeah.
Plan of care. Your chance of executing a full plan of care and having that patient become a well patient and having succeeded goes way up, which also then in turns makes your whole experience better. Your staff loves their jobs better. It's just, you're really getting into why you're doing this in the first place. You're doing this to help people.
Yeah.
And so, and it helps the business, of course, because that's,
of course,
as a business, we've got to be aware of profits. And this is a profitability factor, completed plans of care and the satisfaction of the individuals that both work for you and come through your doors. Like these are all hard to measure things, but we all know about them, and we're working on them all the time. This is part of that.
Was there a concern that you're taking on this additional salary, that there was going to be this additional expense, and it's hard to really get ROI, I guess you could say, out of this position? But the trade-off obviously is great, even if it's not fiscal.
Well, it is fiscal.
Yeah, tell me.
So it's right in front of our faces, right? So you got a PT. What do you pay your PT per hour?
Mid-70s per year salary.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say it's $40 an hour or something of that sort.
Cool.
Okay, what do you pay a scribe?
I don't know.
Not even half of that.
12, 15.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's your answer. You've taken from a $40 an hour person a task, and you've given it to $13 an hour person, or whatever that is in your region, makes sense. And it's right in front of your face. Like,
I
that's
see.
obvious.
So
That's
that
obvious.
$40 a person is no longer doing the $13 an hour job. They can
They're freed
focus
up,
they can focus on doing $40 per hour things.
right? How
Right.
could that not help your plan of care become more likely to be executed and have your
Mm-hmm.
you know your outcomes just skyrocket because
Yeah.
they can spend the time that they, like people that are working as physical therapists. And right now, I'm out of the office. I haven't worked seeing patients for the last 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of my personal objectives to where I've gotten, and I'm really happy about that. But for those who work for me, they're the most amazing people. They're
Mm-hmm.
there. Their whole heart is to help people get better. That's the reason they're there. And if they're not doing it, if they're doing stuff that doesn't really move toward that direction, then they're just not happy. That's not why they went to school. It's
Mm-hmm.
not why they've done all this. And so, what is a happy employee? What's the value of that?
Right.
What's the value of somebody who's going to stay with you for a long time and maybe forever because this just fits their
Mm-hmm.
needs? And so I think it's eventually everyone's going to do this. It's just
Yeah.
kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. I'd imagine you probably noticed this in the Tempe clinic specifically, but once you implemented the scribe, morale probably changed a little bit. The feeling in the clinic was a little bit lighter and happier, would you say?
I think who really notices this is the providers, and so they do drive providers. PTs in your office drive the morale of the office.
Exactly.
Everybody's feeding off them. They're the ones making decisions, and so you affect that person, you affect the whole thing.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we also, like we do in our offices, we ask one of our physical therapists to be a clinic director, and they've got additional roles and responsibilities,
Right.
and this frees them up more too.
Mm.
You can imagine. So yeah,
Well,
it can't help.
I love the fact that you have them bouncing or shared between at your space 4 providers. Do you think there's a limit to that? So if someone
Oh,
had 15
for
providers in a clinic, that maybe they need 2 or 3 or 4.
for sure, yeah. There's a capacity there. We've found uh, sort of a formula that works for us, and so. But then you can also use this individual as part of your team in other ways too. Let's say, for
Okay.
instance,
Yeah.
you've got a single provider clinic, and it's just not enough work to have a full-time all the time scribe, right?
Yeah.
Well, they are minded. They're healthcare minded people that want to provide care. There's places where they can help out in your office. We've experienced this, and
Yeah.
we've been doing this now for coming up on 6 years. So we've
Right.
got a lot of experience
Mm-hmm. And so
in it. So
you find them being ascribed for them being ascribed for 4 providers doesn't necessarily keep them busy full time. They should be finding other things to do, essentially.
no, I think with them with 4 providers is pushing the limits of an individual scribe.
Oh, okay. That's
Um,
good to know.
yeah, yeah. I think that it's it's 3 is kind of a sweet spot at
Okay.
least in our format, the way we do it, and
Okay.
you really can vary that a great deal. For instance, if a person's coming in, it's just a daily note that you're not doing a progress note or an evaluation of the sort, then they're just going to be capturing subjectives and helping capture objectives from the provider,
Right.
and that's not a whole lot there. So it
Mm-hmm.
depends. There have been periods of time when they can't capture all of those things. They primarily are doing the progress notes or the evals, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's some flexibility there. But your providers also understand that, oh, you know what, if it's if the scribe's busy, I can also do my note. I don't need to wait for them. If it's a quick daily note, you can just punch it
Yeah.
out and go. You
Right.
don't have to use the scribe if it doesn't make sense. So
yeah, but if the scribe could even help them 60, 70, 80% of the time, that's a huge load off of their plate.
Well, yeah, it's much more like 95% of it they're capturing. So,
and when that scribe calls in sick, it's a pretty sad day in the clinic, I assume.
It's gotten to the point where it's like they've forgotten what it was like to go without it, right? And
right.
So they're like, what the heck's going on here? The scribe's not here. And you're like, yeah, you're gonna have to do your own notes. What? I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, welcome to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah, that's a moment where you can say, well, there's other offices around town that don't have scribes. You can work for them all the time. Never have one.
Yeah, 40 hours a week writing notes, right?
They're like, yeah, I just remembered why I like you so much.
Do you have a hard time filling that position of scribe when it's open?
No, we never have had.
Okay.
No.
Interesting.
But you know what? We're in a place that we have. I've realized this recently when I have friends in other places in the country, like our friend in New Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not all like it is here. For us, we seem to have plenty of folks that we can draw from, and
okay,
we can find good people.
And when you tell them that in this position you're going to be writing a lot, you're going to be following the providers, do you find of the people that you interview, some people that alone weeds some people out, or gets them excited?
Oh, for sure. Like I'm not looking for just anybody, right? Yeah. We're looking for a who,
right?
We're looking for the person that says, "Oh, listen, I can do this better than you can," right? Like I surely can do it better than your PTs can. Like type, capture information. Yeah, I'm better. I'm better at that than all the people here. So they're a who. They're a person that knows how to come in and make it happen. And they need to learn a little bit about physical therapy and about the system. And but they're coming in proud of their abilities to type fast and to capture information and to be able to glean it and make it concise and what the providers want it to be.
So they just have their little rolling station, and when you're done with an initial evaluation, they roll out and find the next patient that they haven't captured information on yet, ask them how they're doing, and talk to the PTs, and just kind of work the clinic all day long, right?
Yeah, and the patients know them. They're engaged with patients because the patients see them every time they come in. That's Heidi. She comes every time and capture, and it gives you that moment as a provider to make sure that you've put your thinking brain on with that patient. You're not just going into treatment mode. Heidi's going to come over behind you, and you're going to have to go, okay, let's capture the pertinent and important information here. And so that's good too. It's good for the provider. There have been many times when I've been in a particularly challenging evaluation, and usually I've got patterns of how I do an eval, right?
Right.
And for whatever reason, if it was like this patient just threw me curveballs and I was just like out on some other tangent going, wait, what's going on here? Trying to figure it out. And the scribe will say, hey, don't forget, you usually do this and this assessment with this kind of patient. Are you going to, did you want to, do a straight leg raise test here? Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Like you're like, duh, I always do that test. I always, that's part of, I need to get that neural tension information. But at that moment it was, lost. And so they helped in a lot of ways, and they know that. And you turn and look at me and say, you know what, without you, it just wouldn't be as good here. And they love what they're doing for you.
That's cool. We've covered a ton of stuff about scribes. Is there anything else you want to share that maybe we missed?
No, I think just, we are a new company, this Rehab Scribe that we are opening. And so we are capable of, taking on clients across the country, because this training can be done virtually. We don't hire. We do give some guidelines and some guidance in hiring,
Okay.
but we can train your people in your place. Oftentimes, someone in your organization that already exists,
Right.
and we can turn that person into the who for you.
Yeah.
And so
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's it. We're happy to be of help. I was saying to Nathan before we started this, podcast, I really want everybody who's felt my pain, which is the pain of outpatient orthopedic, after the people leave and you're still sitting there. I want you guys to not have that. I want people to start
Yeah.
doing this so that they get home to their families
Right.
and stop doing notes or taking notes home, which we've
Yeah.
all done. I've done it.
Yeah.
We've all done it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a little bit of an investment, but it financially it does make sense. It comes back.
Right.
So
Understood. Are there any other small things that you've done over the course of your ownership journey? You've been a practice owner for almost 20 years now. Any other small things that you've done that have impacted your business that you would share?
yeah, I listened to this podcast, Nathan, so I was prepared for that question. So. or a variation of some sort. And I was thinking to myself, what are some of like the things? Because I listen to the other successful PT owners come on, and I glean a lot, and I value that, and I appreciate that. And 3 things that stood out to me. One was my morning routine. As good as my morning is as good as my day is going to be.
Wow.
Those first 2 uninterrupted hours of the day are so important. Getting coaching, reaching out to get somebody to help you. You need it. Even though all the information I believe that I need is already inside here. And I think great coaches don't necessarily add stuff in your brain. They just pull it out of what you already got,
Right.
And then mastermind groups, we've been in together through the peer-to-peer program, APTA, that, and other mastermind groups that I'm in are super helpful to me. Those are the things I think I would say, and there's a myriad of others, but those are big. They changed things for
me.
And
I can tell that you've made a difference just from an outsider's perspective, that you've made significant changes in your business as you've gotten the coaching, as you've done the networking, and as you've pulled yourself out of treating, right? You've had more time to work on your business. All those have been influential in your growth. And I've seen the growth in your company because you've done those specific steps.
Yeah. It has. If I go back and I look at, my first coaching I took 2015, 2 years later, I opened my second clinic.
Yeah.
After 12 years of just kind of going along, right?
Yeah. Just doing your
2 years after 2 years after that, I opened my third clinic. 2 years after that, I take myself out of treating patients altogether and just doing what I want to do right now, which is be a business owner.
Yeah.
Those are, to me, and I know a lot of people that's not a fast movement. Like they could have done all that in 6 months. And I know that, right? But for me, I like that. That's the kind of progress that that I'm thankful for. I don't think I've done all that, but it's worked out in that fashion, and I'm very grateful.
Looking back on where we're at now, and because we've had a very similar trajectory to our schooling and careers, obviously.
We opened our clinics. We open our clinics within months of each other.
Yeah, I think so. And
within, maybe it's 15 miles of each other.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah. We've been definitely tied in a lot of our pursuits. What would you go back and tell the Mark Moore of 2002 when he first opened up his clinic? Is there any advice, 1 or 2 things you would say, you've got to do this, and the sooner you do it, the better?
Yeah, don't have a scarcity mindset as much as I did.
Right.
Like I realized that, you make decisions based out of fear that you're, that you're just going to run out of stuff and run out of money and time and whatnot. And then, I don't know, I mean, one of them would be get coaching much earlier. I listened to your interview with Adam Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy's a stud. Like he
Total
jumped
stud.
in like a year after, starting his, PT clinic or something like
Right.
that. He's coaching. I'm like, yeah, good job.
How much money would you have saved if you had gotten coaching early on, right? Instead of learning from the school of hard knocks,
Right.
you could have saved so much headache, time, money, energy on poor employees, you name it, man.
And just to me, even it would have been, why have waited so long to feel so much fulfillment, right?
Right.
Like money aside, I've wanted certain things for myself, like we all do. It's just kind of like putting it off, where I
Mm-hmm.
could have started expanding my influence,
Right.
expanding, well, and just acting on my
Mm-hmm.
desires, my goals, my inward wants, and so
Right.
that's the loss that I feel. Is it's like I missed out on some years where I could have been making more progress.
You could have had a
So
greater impact sooner. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. To my family,
Right.
to my employees,
To the community
um,
around you. Yeah.
yeah, at
To
all.
all those
Yeah,
patients.
to
Now,
myself.
yeah, for sure. You could have gotten, like you said, you could have achieved some fulfillment sooner,
Because you,
and maybe
yeah,
be a little bit more clear about it.
yeah, because I can go and think to myself, what do I feel my own value is? Well, my
Mm-hmm.
value has to do a lot with, do I act on the impressions that come to me? Like I wanted to open a second clinic, within a couple of years of opening my first one. I was always going to do that, right?
Right.
12 years later,
Yeah.
and why hadn't I? It wasn't, it was just because I needed some nudging. I needed
Mm-hmm.
to take some time and to act on those impressions that were coming to me, and not
Right.
just listen to the fear that comes right after the
Right.
message.
Right.
So
No, I got you. The one of the most influential books that I've read this past year was one you shared with me called Who Not How. You already
mhm.
referenced it in our conversation today, by Dan Sullivan, and who was the guy that actually wrote it?
Ben Hardy,
Ben Hardy. Yeah, great book, man. Totally
amazing.
changed my thought processes. Right, I'm still filling out impact filters. I just did one a
Yeah.
couple days ago. Any other books that have been influential recently or over the
Yeah.
past?
Recently, The Road Less Stupid. Uh,
The
guy's name
Road
is
Less Stupid.
The guy last name's Cunningham. I can't remember his first name. Um, but that is a book that will help you think. And what I mean by that is, um, it's, I don't know how many, maybe 40 different sets of questions that you should be thinking about, and you should stop and get a quiet place, and you should think and write. So they're prompts, I guess, if you'd say it that
Okay.
way.
All right.
And but it's accompanied with some background as to why that question is so important, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's really nice. It's really a great book,
Interesting.
and that one's been really helpful. And I think that one's going to be something I'm going to have on my desk for years as I'm working through it.
Is
It's a
that
lot.
is that a small business book? Is that more of a self-help book? Is that
Small business. It's a business book.
it's
It's an
specific
entrepreneur book.
for entrepreneurs? Okay, good.
Specific, yeah, to your business.
Nice.
Um, and then we got to always give homage to Covey, right? Seven
Yeah.
Habits
Yeah.
was early and is still so powerful.
It's
Oftentimes we
timeless.
skip over it. It's
Mm-hmm.
timeless.
Right.
And then his son, Sean Covey, with a group of other authors, I feel bad I don't remember the others, uh, wrote something called The Four Disciplines of Execution,
Uh-huh.
40X. And I love
Yep.
that book. That's
Yeah.
been super helpful to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that Marriott's, the hotel's method
Uh-huh.
for how they execute um, their company. And so
Yeah.
that's been really good. I love those books, and there's so
Yeah.
many others.
Oh, there's a ton. Yeah, I definitely wanted to pick your brain because what you provided me the last year. So I'll have to check out The Road Less Stupid. Yeah, that came from left field. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah. So actually, Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan are authoring another book. It's just about to come out, I think, October.
Really? Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
So in another month from now.
This is Dan's second big market book. So those who know Dan produces a book every 90 days. He produces a new book. But Who Not How was his first like widely published book. Like the other books he produces are for people that are in his workshops.
Yeah.
But that was a major market book, Who Not How, and it did really well. But I can't remember this other one is. It's called I think it's like The Gap and the Gain or something like that. It's awesome concept.
Yeah.
I haven't read the book yet because it hasn't come out yet, but I know the concept very well. I've been benefiting from it for years. So
yeah, I remember listening to his podcast and he talked about the gap. So
it's
going to be a big elaboration on the gap, I assume.
That's right. With the same author, Ben Hardy, who's awesome.
Ben's a stud.
Ben's a stud. Yeah, he's got other books of his own. But their collaboration is incredible. Right. So Dan Sullivan writes 0 of the book. So he goes to Ben, here's the concept, and trusts Ben. So Ben is his who, right. And he steps away, and literally Ben writes the whole book.
Right.
But it was Dan's. No, not any words in there, unless Ben just happens to be quoting him. It's not any of Dan's writing, and so he's a great example of getting people like a scribe, someone who wants to do and loves to do that particular work. Because that's the other thing about it is in every job that's out there, there's somebody around you that loves that job, especially the ones you hate so much.
Yeah.
Like just give it to them. Let them run with it, because they're going to do so much better job than you are. So,
yeah, we talked about that a lot recently in my masterminds. Is a number of therapists, some more than others, but most of them dislike marketing, and it's because of their dislike of marketing that their marketing efforts are stunted. I mean, they'll, numbers get low, and so they do more marketing, and numbers come up, so they stop marketing, or they try singular efforts every now and again, and that kind of thing. Whereas the guys who are successful, and if you're going to take a page out of those who are successful's book, it's to find the who. Okay, you don't like marketing. Well, let's find someone that does, that loves to visit doctors' offices and play the game and try to get past that front desk person. So people like doing that. Find that person, let them do it. And when you get a consistent marketing engine going, even if it's a part-time person, numbers significantly improve. And that was so in my business. Once I found someone to do the job I hated, right, that area of my business improved. Surprise, surprise. Right. And so it's awesome that you've taken this concept down to the scribe level.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to live that concept as much as I can, because there's still things in my life, going back to that, activity inventory that I did years and years ago, wrote down all the little things that I do, and there's still items on that list that I might be really good at, but I might even be the very best at it in my organization, but it removes energy from me because I don't like it, or it's not keeping me in the areas that I love and bring me energy. I'm still trying to chip away, and I will for the rest of my life. Let's be honest. This is a process, and I know that. But
that was a really impactful exercise for you, and it's one that you're still going back to. It sounds like years later.
Oh yeah, it'll be forever. Until someday I go, hey, now everything I do every day is only what brings me energy. But then what's going to happen? My interests will change.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll be like, oh, I don't like that anymore. Now I want to, paraglide or something,
There you go. I just got back from a golfing trip for a few days, and that's something that could give me energy every day.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
And have no other concerns about how well I'm going to play golf this day. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's fun. Well, hey man, thanks for your time. Again, if people wanted to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, in regards to the scribe, it just admin at rehabscribe.com. Admin at rehabscribe.com.
Okay, cool.
Leave me an email. Yeah. Basically, if they're interested in getting some help in developing a scribe in their clinic, we'll just, get on the phone, we'll do a consultation and find out what their
Awesome.
needs are, and make a decision as to we can help them.
Great.
So,
well, cool. Thanks for your time today, Mark. I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely, man. It's a good time.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks.